the Democratic Alliance is launching its Eastern Cape Election Manifesto in Bethelsdorp in the northern parts of Gqeberha, which used to be a stronghold. The party recently launched its national poster in that highly contested area. Voting in the area has produced a split outcome for years now without any party dominating. Lerato Fekisi has more.
We're live in the Northern Areas in Bethelsdorp, where the DA is launching their provincial campaign. And just for that you understand how important the Northern Areas is, when it gets to the elections, one of the highly contested areas are the Northern Areas, and if any party does really well here, they're pretty much guaranteed of winning Gqeberha, and I understand that's why perhaps the DA continues to come to the Northern Areas and they'll go around Gqeberha as well. But I think the reason why they keep on coming back here is that, like I said in the intro, the many parties are trying to have a piece of this pie. We've got the Patriotic Alliance, we've got the ANC, we've got the National Alliance, who are all trying to get a piece of this pie. But come the 29th of May, we'll see exactly who gets the biggest chunk. Joining me this morning is the DA leader, Steenhuisen. Tell us more about the campaign this morning. What's the plans of the DA in the Eastern Cape, in particular Gqeberha and the Northern Areas? Now, Mr. Steenhuisen, you've been here, I think it's the third time in Gqeberha, and you've particularly come to the Northern Areas every single time you're here. A reason why you keep on coming back to this specific area?
Well, obviously this is a swing vote area. It's obviously an area we want to be able to convince the people here to vote for the DA going into this election. I think they've seen what happens when you vote for smaller parties. They take your vote and give it to the ANC, and that's why people sit without water, without jobs, without opportunities. And we want to just make the case that we can rescue Nelson Mandela Bay, we can rescue the province of the Eastern Cape, and we can rescue South Africa, but it's going to require people to make sure that they don't split their vote and they consolidate and unite behind the party that can actually get these things done and move Nelson Mandela Bay and the country forward.
Just speaking about rescue, the people of this area have been asking for rescue for the past 30 years. I think things in this area, if anything, are deteriorating. Crime is extremely high, like gangsterism. Unemployment is extremely high among the youth. Housing is an issue. Poverty is an issue. What becomes a focal point for the DA in getting voters to vote for the DA in terms of bringing change in this area?
It's about making sure that if you look at the manifesto we put on the table, it's about 7 things, getting those 7 things right. Because if we don't get those 7 things right, the next 10 years are going to be very, very difficult. One of those is crime, and we know this area is specifically beset by crime, and it needs localized solutions. So when we were in government here in the city, we'd introduced the shot spotter system to try and get illegal guns and gangsterism off the street. We'd established a gang unit within the Metro Police to go out and do patrolling. We'd increased the visibility of policing. All of that is gone now when the DA was voted out and when the Patriotic Alliance and these other smaller parties made common cause with the ANC. And we want to explain to the people here that we can bring back policing here. We can win the war against drugs and crime. We're doing so in the Western Cape through the LEAP program, the Law Enforcement Advancement Program, which is putting 1,000 police officers on the street, specifically in crime hotspot areas, and it is working. 14% reduction in priority crimes in those areas. We can do the same here, and we can make the difference. But the other big thing stalking the Eastern Cape is hunger, and the ANC have turned this province from a province of hope to a province of hunger, where families and mothers are literally killing themselves and their children because they can no longer feed their families. We have a plan to reduce the cost of living, to immediately reduce food prices, and to lift the child support grant up by 250 Rand a month so that people are able to provide food for their families going forward.
Just speaking of smaller parties like the Patriotic Alliance, they obviously are gunning for the Northern Areas as well, and also the National Alliance. What then do you want to say to the voters to convince them not to split their vote and vote for you guys?
Well, I think people have seen what happens when you split your vote. You give your vote to one of those smaller parties. They put their own interests first, their own positions first, and they took those votes and gave them to the ANC, the very party that collapsed this municipality in the first place, and the very party that they're helping to prop up now here in Nelson Mandela Bay. If you want to rescue South Africa, understand this: PA equals ANC. That is the reality. If you vote for the PA, you're going to wake up with the babblast of an ANC government in the province and at a national level. And that is a fate that the people of Nelson Mandela Bay know better than many other people around the country cannot happen. And wherever the PA have got into government with the ANC, whether it's the Beaufort West, whether it's Knysna, whether it's Joburg, there is collapse. Joburg has run out of water. People don't have opportunities. The roads are falling apart. They're literally blowing up. In Knysna, no drinking water, bodies floating in the drinking reservoir, piles of rubbish that haven't been collected, the town going backwards. That's what happens when you split your vote. We're saying to people, unite behind the one party that has the best chance to unseat the ANC and be the core of a new government after the election that will serve the people of this province and the people of South Africa.
Well, the DA leader, John Steenhuisen, speaking about the provincial campaign being launched here in Gqeberha, saying that he's reaching out to voters not to split their vote and give them to smaller parties, saying that the DA is really determined to get a majority vote here in the northern areas, a critical area where if any party wins in this area, they pretty much have secured Gqeberha, and saying that they want to bring about change, being change in terms of alleviating poverty, job creation, above all making sure they get rid of crime, which has been a really thorny issue here in the northern areas of Gqeberha. For now, let's go back to the studio.